Hello and welcome to Amazing TV. Join with me today is Douglas Hoffman, a professional marine wildlife photographer who's made it his job to swim with whales. Douglas, a very, very warm welcome to Amazing TV. How are you doing today?
It's a pleasure to be here.
Can we just start with a little bit about your background? I actually just want to know how you got into professional diving, because before going into being a photographer, you're actually also a professional diver, right?
Yes, but it all started, I got a hotel management degree in college, and
Did
it took
you?
me to Hawaii,
Mhm.
right? I worked for the Hyatt for about 3 years in Maui. And one of the benefits I had was I could sign my name and go diving whenever I wanted and whenever my schedule would allow. So over 3 years, I did like 500 dives. And at my management meeting, they were either going to promote me or ask me to resign because they knew I loved diving so much. So I chose to resign, knowing I could get my job back because they liked me very much. And I was a dive master and I had a job videotaping divers underwater. This was like, gosh, 1989, yeah, something like that. Um, And then I just started being a professional diver, dive instructor. And in 1992, um, I got to back up. As a professional diver, I wanted to maintain my enthusiasm for the sport. So I picked up a camera and I really sucked. I was terrible. I was very consistent in my terribleness. I really was that bad. But I don't quit anything. I was determined. And by the time 1992 rolled around, I started to have the beginning of an understanding of underwater photography. Mind you, I never created photographs on land. I started underwater, and it's a whole foreign world down there. And the cameras at that time were not automatic. You had to do all the settings. So that meant you needed to be a photographer. And that's a whole language in its own. Depth of field, shutter speed, how all the technical part of a photograph come together. And that takes time to learn. And it took me a long time to learn. But about 1992 and 1993, I went to Indonesia on a month-long dive holiday. I ended up staying 2 months and I created a lot of pictures and I started to get excited. And I met a man named Michael Aw. He's the publisher of Ocean Geographic. And
Oh,
he talked me into going to a shootout in another island in Indonesia. That's an underwater photo competition. And so divers from around the world had gathered in this place called Ambon. And we went diving for a week. And at the end of the week, we turned in, I think it was 3 pictures in 3 different categories, a total of 9 images. And back then, these were all slides. We were shooting slide film. And I ended up getting like a second and a third place, and it blew me away. And I got really motivated. So I started diving when I went back to Hawaii every day with a camera. And I kind of got a little bit better. And the next year I went and I compete. And I won the Governor's Cup Best of Show, first place in every category. And all of a sudden, magazines are contacting me, dive destinations are contacting me. And so my career was launched. And I started as a photojournalist. It was published from Hong Kong, Japan, England, America, many more places if I put my mind to it. And life was really good. I was living the dream, right? And I had 5 cases of malaria that kind of slowed me down.
yeah.
Yeah, over a period of, well, 4 years. I got 1 case in Papua New Guinea, and I think it came back when I was in Indonesia. And even once I was in California, and the malaria came out of hibernation and I got sick again. But they fixed me up, and I haven't been sick in 20 plus years. So it's great. Um, the things that happen to you as a diver, both the good and the bad. Um, I had to have a IV with coconut water in Tufi, Papua New Guinea, because there was no hospital, there was no saline solution, and I was dying. So the owner of the resort said, "This is what we locals do," and they went and they got the coconuts and they got sterile tubing and they just gave me IVs.
They
So
injected you with coconut water.
yes, they did, and it saved my life. And on last year's Tonga trip, I had a heart surgeon, and I
Mm.
told him the story, and he goes, "I'll bet you a cold beer that that's not valid." And so
Mm.
after the charter, he went back home, got on his little phone and Googled it, and then he brought me a cold beer, and he goes, "Actually, that is a acceptable therapy in emergency situations. I learned something. Thank you." And I'm like, "Yeah, anything I can do." So, I mean, there's
Your
been ups
immune
and downs.
system. Yeah, your immune system must be very, very tough.
In Tonga in 2015, I'm snorkeling with a mother and calf for 90 minutes. It's a dream come true. And then my appendix ruptured, and I'm floating in the water with whales, and I'm kind of drowning. I'm having a moment. It's very painful. I did not understand what was going on. I thought maybe I had Tonga tummy. You know, I ate something bad the night before or something. I had no idea because there's no instruction manual in the body. You don't know, oh, that's an appendix. I better get help. You just
Yeah.
hurt, right?
Mm.
So this is going to be bizarre for you to hear, but it's quite true. The female humpback approached me and scanned me. I learned this later when I did a presentation at Whale Trust. That world expert, I'm going to remember his name in a moment. It's on the tip of my tongue. Sorry, doctor. Anyway, he told me what had happened as I explained what had happened to me. Whales have nodules on the front of them, bumps. The humpback whales have like, they look like barnacles, but they're not, right? Whales are mammals for three reasons: live birth, hair, and breast milk. If you look at a humpback whale, you don't really see the hair. But on the nodules, they each have one hair, it's almost invisible, and they wiggle them and they create like a hologram. And they scan things and they investigate and they communicate with their calves and other whales in this manner. I did not know that. Dr. Eric Hoyt, that's his name. Anyway, Dr. Hoyt told me that the whales scanned me and discovered that I was having an incident and that I needed help. And she hung out with me. And at one point, when I started to bobble down, I got a little lift back up. And by then, the captain saw I was in trouble. And he came and got me. And he was Tongan. He picked me up out of the water with one hand and put me in the boat. And I went back to the guest house. That was on a Friday. I laid there till Monday on the ground. And on Monday, I saw a doctor. And the doctor did an ultrasound and said, "Oh my God, your appendix ruptured. You're dying. You're septic. You need an operation, but you're in Tonga. We don't have a surgeon." There's this thing called DAN, DAN, Divers Alert Network. It's worldwide, but based in America. And it's a diver insurance program. So I called the number, or the doctor did, and within 12 hours, I had a jet come from Australia to Tonga, and it picked me up and it took me to New Zealand. And on Tuesday morning, I was operated on. And by the gift of God, I am still here alive. So all the,
Yeah.
I don't want to think, I don't want people to think that there's no consequences of being a professional cameraman or diver or underwater photographer. There's risks involved. Fortunately, I've had no diving accidents, but I've had the malaria and I've had the appendix. And Dan was there. I mean, they covered all of the expense and my life was saved. So a word to the wise to every diver out there, get Dan insurance. If you ever have a problem while you're diving, you're covered.
Do you think that the whales can pick up on your energy when you're there with them?
100%. 100%. I think they're the most incredible, smart, patient creatures. Um, the thing about snorkeling with whales, they're air breathers, but they live underwater. Humans are air breathers. We live in the air. We can't scuba dive with them, but we can snorkel with them. So if we stay at the surface and breathe air, the interactions we have with whales are incredible. Some of the issues that can aspire is when free divers, especially uh, there's the Chinese, when they come to Tonga, they don't seem to follow the rules. They free dive on the whales. And I've documented it, but yet nothing changes. But here's what happens when you free dive on a whale, the whale just keeps descending because it doesn't want you in its space.
Mhm.
So it kind of ruins the moment, changes the whale's behavior. If you snorkel and float where the female can see you, and you're non-aggressive and you're still, whales get curious and come in and check you out, and you don't need to do anything except be still and just go, wow. Of course, you have to swim a little distance from the boat to get to where the whales are. I'm not saying it's instantaneous. There is some physical activity going on, but it's nothing like an Olympic swim or anything like that.
You, your first encounter with a humpback whale was while doing a safety stop while you were a diver,
Yes,
right?
I
You
was in
called this
Hawaii.
your, yeah, you called this your life-changing moment.
It was,
Can you tell us a little bit about that moment?
yeah. So back in the day, I was a dive master instructor leading dives. I was at Molokini Crater. It's a small island 4 miles off the southern shore of Maui, a popular dive site. In safe diving practice, after you do depths of 60, 70 feet, whatever, you have to come up to 15 feet for a period of 3 minutes to let the bubbles off gas and to make sure you're safe so you don't have any problems. Diving has some risk. And if we follow safety protocols, we avoid any problems. I'm a testament to that. I've never had decompression sickness, and I have 15,000 dives now. Um, so if you follow the rules, you're pretty much safe. So I always do a 3 minute safety stop. And this particular day, the divers had seen nudibranchs on the wall that we were diving. And so they were hovering at 15 feet, looking at the wall, at the marine life, which they should be. I happen to always, at the end of the dive, look out into the blue looking for boat traffic because I have to swim my divers away from the wall so the boat can safely pick us up. It's protocol. So I'm probably 20, 30 feet away from them at 15 feet. The visibility is 100 feet. They have no problem knowing where I'm at. And they know that I'm going to call them to me at the appropriate time. It's all in the briefing. Silver Banks has been established as a whale swimming destination. So has Tahiti um, and Tonga.
Okay. Okay, I had no idea Tahiti was one. Okay.
Oh yeah, they have a big whale swim industry now. Friends of mine lead groups there, and they love it. It's very easy for Americans because you can fly from LA 5 hours to Tahiti.
Yeah.
To go to Tonga, it takes 2 days, right? You have to fly from wherever you are to LA, LA to Fiji, Fiji to Tonga, and with the time change, it's 2 full days.
Mhm.
So most people don't want to go there. Tonga's
Mhm.
very remote. It's in the middle of nowhere. Um, but that's the allure. The islands, there's 3 island groups. It's quite beautiful. Two of the island groups have whales. One of the groups is called Hapai, and I've been there many years. I've chosen not to make that my go-to place just because when the weather's fickle, there's no shelter there. It's a flat island chain. And
Mhm.
so you really beat up on the boat. I researched and I decided to go to Tonga. And the first time, I chartered a sailboat and I went through all 3 island groups just to see from my eyes what it was all
Mhm.
about. Because in my mind, not doing it before, I thought it would be easy. It's legal there. They have permits. So the whales must be like dive sites. You just must drive right out of the harbor and find whales. Well, I sure got an education. Whales are wild animals. They are not dive sites. They live in and around the islands, but you have to look for them. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it takes time, right? So overall, I had a few really good encounters that period, but it was more for learning. One of the images I created that trip, I made into a black and white, and
Mm.
it won the gold medal in 2008, first place for wide angle. I was pretty stoked, not only because it was a whale, but it was black and white. And, people, we live in a color world.
Mm.
People are familiar with color. When we take the color out and leave only shades of gray, people have to pause and think and breathe it in and take it in because it's different and it's not their normal experience of viewing art. And I think that's why this black and white did so well, is that it
Mm.
was a beautiful pose of a baby whale and the texture of its face was just perfect. And I think that's what helped it win.
Was it your decision to make it black and white?
Yes. So I'm an artist. I don't know how else to say it. I studied composition. I got my master of photography degree on people portraits and underwater portraits. And it's
Yeah.
all about the art, how you guide the eye into an image and out and how you light it. And see a lot of underwater photographers have automatic settings.
Mm.
They're good divers and they take good pictures, but they're not in control of what they're doing. The camera's making all the decisions.
Mm.
I'm the old school way. I want to control every aspect from how much light I put on a subject. If I use lights at all, like on whales, I don't use lights. It's all ambient light. But underwater on these critters, I'm using multiple different kind of lighting techniques,
Mm.
um, from using strobes to using a snoot. If you can imagine, um, from the end of my flash, I have like a funnel.
Okay.
So on the end of the flash, this attaches to the flash. It's now
Mm.
shooting through a small area of light. So now I can pinpoint exactly what I want with the amount of light I want. And
Mm.
I can use multiple strobes if I want to, or just one.
Mm.
This allows me to create a little bit of definition, a little bit of like if you look at my face, this side's a
Mm.
little bit shadow, this side's a little bit brighter, but
Yeah.
it makes my face dimensional, right? As opposed to
Yeah.
like a driver's license photo where it's equal light on both sides and it's flatter. This is the human common experience. You look at pictures and they're flat, but if the image maker creates an image with depth and dimension from controlling the light, the image stands out more. And
Mm.
so I have been very fortunate to study with a man named Dennis Corpus. He's from the Philippines, and he's probably one of the best underwater photographers I've met. And he shared several techniques with me and different mindsets. Mind you, I have a master's degree. I've been doing this 35 years, and I'm
Mm.
still excited to take lessons and get coaching and learn from people who I respect. And Dennis is certainly one of them. He's an incredible man. And he helped me see the light in a different way last year.
Mm.
And I applied the techniques that I learned from him. And I entered the 2024 Negros Oriental Dive 7 international competition. And I came away the champion. I won 3 categories. And it was incredible. And I have to say, yes, I have a lot of composition skills, a lot of background, but learning new techniques,
Mm.
it only enabled me to do better work. So
Yeah.
I'm still aspiring to do better. Lighting these little creatures is very, very difficult underwater.
Yeah. I can only imagine, to be honest. How do you balance your artistry with their imagery? Because I've seen your photos and it's often associated with a lot as if you're trying to tell a story. As if like you're not just creating these images, you're doing storytelling. So how do you balance your artistry along with taking these professional photos underwater?
Mindset, discipline. Everyone can take a picture. I can take a picture, but in my process, in my thinking, I'm creating a picture. Every one I take, even though I take a lot of really bad ones, I create a lot of bad ones. I am repetitious enough and I'm trying enough different things that by and by I have the right combination of camera settings and lighting to create something that tells a story, evokes emotion, and a response. And it's through creating that emotional response that I hope to contribute to this conservation mindset within the world's population.
So you're also like involved with a lot of NPOs. You've done a lot of work with NPOs around the world. And your images have even, helped raise social awareness. But what sort of response have you received so far?
So I could tell you this, when I printed my images and had them in my art gallery before I lost it in the fire in Hawaii, um, I had great joy watching people come in and see my work and become inspired, whether they bought it or not. So it was very personally satisfying that people appreciated the work that I was creating.
Let's talk about like your conservation and impact because I know that that's important to you. Um, if you could tell the general public, what are some of the biggest threats that marine life, the whales are facing today, and how can the general public help?
I would say for all species of marine life right now, there's two huge threats. Plastics in the ocean, microplastics, that kind of thing, and global warming. These are the two most critical threats because not only does global warming make the coral reef bleach, when the coral dies, the fish die, and when the fish die, there's no fish to eat. So, you know, we're going to be eating coconuts. Um, at the top of the food chain, the whales, with the global warming, there's less krill, less ice. With the increase of the whale production, because they're no longer endangered, just threatened, there's more whales eating the krill. So that there is this pressure to find a balance in nature. And I guess the my biggest hope would be that people take action about global warming. Don't call it a farce. Don't let politicians say it doesn't matter. Get upset when they want to do new ocean drilling or drill even in the mainland of America, in the national parks. That shouldn't be happening. So in some of the conservation projects that I've done, I made, and they're on YouTube, people can see them. Why Whales Matter. It's a 5 minute short made by kids for kids.
Mm, okay.
So I worked with Michelle Hoffman, who's an educator from Chicago, wonderful woman, and she helped me put together a team of students, young and old, that work together to take my ideas and form it into a proper script appropriate for school-aged kids. Um, and we made this little short. We had actors and we did it. And it's on YouTube. It's really cool. Why Whales Matter. And
Is it a short movie?
it's 5 minutes. The idea was to make it long enough for to be shown in school to motivate kids.
Mm.
And I made another one called Why Turtles Matter. And that's also on YouTube. And it's about 5 minutes as well. And it talks about Hawaiian green sea turtles and other turtles around the world and the risks that they have and the effect we have on turtles and their population.
What are you going to be doing in the Philippines in the next few years? You're just going to be based here, taking images of the smallest creatures in the coral
Yes,
reefs?
yeah, 10 months a year. I'll still do my month with the whales and I'll have a month of travel for family, see my kids,
Mm.
and then 10 months here. That's my future because not every day is Christmas underwater here. There are days that you could be searching um, for particular behavior or a particular animal, and they're just not present. Just like the whales, sometimes you just don't find them, and sometimes the current's very strong, and you can't take your time and set up properly to create beautiful images. That's when you have to take pictures, not create images that make you take pause. Some of the macro images that I I sent you in an email are
Yeah.
just some of the bizarre looking creatures ever. Um, and just seeing them is incredible.
Yeah, some of them I've never seen before.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to make these, maybe even they're ugly or just not even attractive animals, but when you light them properly and create a good portrait, they're captivating. You don't know what you're looking at, but you think it's an alien or something. But it's marine life. It's part of our world, part of our ocean. And by showing these bizarre images or even good portraits of fish, um, creating an awareness and appreciation of the marine life here and the delicate balance these animals have, is just as important in my mind as protecting the whales and raising awareness of their situation. Sea was very, very high as opposed to other areas like Hawaii. And here's why. Birds, plants, fish lay their eggs, make their seeds. The wind blows them, the seas move them around. And during the zooplankton stage, or when they're growing, they can live, they can survive a little period of time while they float to another island or something. And so the biodiversity of species spreads from the Philippines, Indonesia outward. So the further you get from this area, the less species of nudibranchs, the less species of fish, of coral, of trees, of birds, because they can't migrate or live in the gestation period. They'll die or they'll perish. Like a frogfish, for example, most species, not all, will at night swim up to the surface and lay this cocoon of eggs, and the male will does do his thing and germinate them. And then they kind of dissolve out of this mucus thing and become zooplankton, and they float on the ocean surface for a while, growing. And when they get big enough, then they settle back down to the bottom of the sea. Now, this species and many other species, the eggs, the gestation, the zooplankton period is not enough to go from the Philippines all the way to Hawaii. They'll perish. So the species in Hawaii numbers much less than there is here in the Philippines. Hawaii is special in one way. They have more endemic species of fish than other places because they are so isolated in the Pacific that
Mhm.
many of the fish that you see there are only found there. So there is one of the reasons I picked the Philippines and especially Darwin is
Mhm.
because of its rich biodiversity. So
Yeah.
just in my backyard, there are vast areas of black sand that are habitat to all kinds of creatures that live in the sand, from stargazers, snake eels, frogfish, flounder, all different kinds of really cool critters. And they're adjacent and next to patch coral reefs, which, there's all different kinds of frogfish hang out in the coral, and
Mhm.
all different other kinds of fish thrive in the coral. That's their community. So this area is very, very rich, and that's why I picked it. And there's one other reason. I came here as a tourist 4 years ago, and I went to a resort that was recommended to me by a Lady Hall of Fame photographer, Lynn Funkhauser. She said, if you really want to learn about the diving and the species, you need to go dive with Glenn Carballo at Azure Dive Resort. So I had never heard of the place. I'd come to the Philippines to teach an underwater workshop,
Mhm.
liveaboard dive boat.
Mhm.
It was called this Philippine Siren. But I didn't want to come for just 10 days. So I ended up staying a month at Azure, and I became friends with Glenn Carballo, who is now one of my closest friends 4 years later. Um, I just fell in love with the diving and the town and the atmosphere and the whole vibe of this place. It's all about diving, it's all about community. There's not a lot of crime, not a lot of rubbish. There's not a shopping center. There's not really a bar. It's kind of a quiet little town. There are restaurants that have bars, but there's no like bar, which I kind of like because I don't want to drive at night drunk anyway. But this is a great community. And
Mhm.
so I came back here 3 times, as a tourist. The last time I was here was May, June, and July last year. I rented a house for 3 months. I didn't stay at the dive resort, but I still dive with them. Glenn is an incredible guy, and I really appreciate diving with his team. They are very well trained. These guys have tens of thousands of dives, and they can see, they know the habitats everywhere along the coastline, and they see animals that I would, even with all my experience, never see. And so by diving with them, I'm really seeing a lot. And I just, after all my career doing whales and big coral reefs, the
Mhm.
ability to think small and do it in an artistic way is an incredible challenge, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, this sounds like a brand new challenge for you, actually. Brand
It,
new
it,
chapter, brand new challenge.
yeah, I'm very, very excited. I can't stop being the whale guy, but since I only have a 1 month season every year anyway, I might as well make the most of my time. So I retired officially, so I
Hmm.
can live here 10 months a year and just dive. And it was the best decision I ever made.
Hmm.
If you want to see the definition of a happy man, I'm right here. Um, I'm living my dream. I'm diving 12, 14 times a week. Uh, yeah, I'm seeing incredible things, and things are just getting better.
That's amazing. Okay, before we end, being considered a whale guy, is there any photograph, like if you could photograph one one behavior of whales that you haven't captured yet, what would it be and why?
That's a really good question because after all my years with the whales, I've seen so many behaviors. I think I'd like to answer your question a different way.
Oh.
All of the behaviors are incredible to me, but when I'm with that mother and calf and I'm witnessing the bond between them, I'm just full of joy and hope and love. And to me, that's the best feeling. So I would want to photograph that more and more. I don't think I would ever get tired of the witnessing the bond between them. But now giving that some thought, there is one behavior I have not photographed, the actual nursing, right?
Oh, the
When the
breastfeeding,
female spits
the
out
breastfeeding.
that's because I don't free dive, and it typically is shielded by the female's body when she's feeding. I've seen the feeding behavior, but I haven't been in a position to photograph it. And I don't know that I will, because it would require me to swim in a manner that might not be appreciated by the female. I would probably need to free dive and come down into her space. And maybe if I was alone and there was no other people and I was slow and mellow, she would tolerate it and I could do it because I know it's been done. I just haven't done it. But it's definitely the mother and calf behavior that it's amazing to witness that bond and that love and nurturing that she's doing. Even in a heat run, when all the males are trying to separate the baby from the mother so that they can mate, the mother doesn't accept it. And she's, for lack of a better word, she becomes very stern with the behavior of the men and tries to get away so that, baby can rest. A heat run can last a whole day. Can you imagine that baby just, because they're always moving and running. So it's hard on the baby. I guess the other thing I would like to see is the whale birth.
Oh,
That would be epic. I think I almost did 2 years ago. Yeah, she was pregnant, she was fat, and she was hanging out in the shallows. And the captain and I both knew that it was just a matter of time. We stayed there extra hours, just hoping, hoping, hoping. At
mm,
4 o'clock in the afternoon, we went back to land. We went to the spot the next day. She was gone. I mean, not dead, but she had moved on. And I'm sure she had the baby and was taking the baby to some sheltered bay that she knows. One of the nice things about Tonga is that there are seamounts that pop up in the middle of nowhere, 5, 10, 15, 20 miles off land. And some of the seamounts are close enough together that they can create a little basin that's shallow. So mothers love to take their calves for the first couple of weeks into these areas where these natural protections, so the big bad predators that do exist in the sea don't swim up from the depths to come and get them.
Wow. It's been so wonderful hearing all your stories and your thoughts and what you've been up to lately. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you
It's a
so much
pleasure.
for having us. I really, really appreciate it.
If any of your team ever wants to come swim with whales, let me know. I go every September, October. It would be a pleasure.
I'll let them know. I'm gonna let them know.